Well, hello, good morning, and welcome to our latest Bath Life Business Surgery. This time it's the fifth in our exploration series with the University of Bath School of Management. My name is Greg Ingham from Bath Life's publisher, Media Clash, and thank you very much for joining us this morning, or indeed for watching us subsequently on YouTube. Today we have an important and we're sure very stimulating session focused on business for good, and particularly aspects of underprivileged women and work. So from workwear to interview techniques to deeper underlying factors, practical help for people who might otherwise be falling through the cracks, and also a call out to the businesses of Bath about how they might get involved and support this incredibly important new initiative. We'll be speaking with Dr. Jane Ellis-Brush, Senior Lecturer at the University of Bath School of Management and founder of a new CIC, community interest company, called First Impressions. It's set to give much needed inspiration and yes, maybe some prompts to action. It might even cause us each to think differently. Please do send your questions and thoughts using the Q&A button below. Do add your company name to your question or be anonymous if you wish, entirely up to you. And please note also, yes, we're recording this and as usual, will be on our YouTube channel, Bath Life YouTube channel later. First up, some news from Bath Life before we get going. We have these business surgeries will continue very much in virtual form. They're bespoke deep dive sessions showcasing companies and organizations' expertise through discussion. Please talk to us about how you might be involved. And of course, they're covered editorially in Bath Life, as well as on our YouTube channel. By the way, there's a great repository. It's almost like something approaching an historical document now on that YouTube channel of how people and companies have been navigating through these times. Our business clubs, Bath Life Business Clubs, have returned to real life, and we have our next one coming just on Monday, the 28th of March, a week today, at the Royal Crescent Hotel. It should be an excellent session featuring John Law from the award-winning interiors and design business Woodhouse and Law. We always take the view that business begins with the conversation, so let's talk. Bath Property Awards, brief one on this, they're taking place again 4th November at Apex City of Bath Hotel. Great gathering of pro services companies. Sponsorships are available if you wish to avail yourself of those. Meantime, Bath Bool is back on July 22nd to 24th. That's the Bool weekend. It's just such a lovely, highly sociable occasion, raising money for local charities and also putting people together, of course. If you want to be involved, please do talk to us. Team tickets are promisingly, they're selling fast, which is great. And so there's a few sponsorships still available, and talk to our team. And by the way, let's give a shout out. Let's all hail these civically minded companies, our big Bool sponsors: Bath Rugby, BLB Solicitors, Enlightened, Fine and Country, Great Wine Company, Hamptons, Novia, Sub 13, and Bath Life. Our little Bool sponsors, by the way, are Carter Jonas, Data Sharp, Mackenzie & Co, Minuteman Press, PG Owen, Roy Twithy King, Spark Loop, and St John's. Well, it was a couple of weeks ago we had our amazing Bath Life Awards. It's fully sold out. It's terrific to be back in the assembly rooms again to celebrate the very best of Bath businesses and organisations. If you want to be involved, please do talk to us, because we'll be back again, of course, on March 23rd. In March 23, rather. Please look out for the official review in the new Bath Life out just this Friday. There's some fantastic pics of joyous people. At the awards, we did also talk about an incredibly serious matter, of course. We felt it was right to do this because what is happening in Ukraine is just an unimaginable tragedy. At the awards, we highlighted actions from some Bath companies, since we all have channels, relationships, and resources. Two local companies particularly, Anthem Publishing and Network N, have donated large sums, and really good for them. Just on Friday, the Holborn held a fundraising evening with Bath Welcomes Refugees. Our own business, Media Clash, is giving free advertising across our portfolio to help raise awareness, and also through this hashtag to promote any Ukraine activity from Bath organisations, and then similarly for us it is in Bristol, Cardiff and Exeter, using the various tags of blah, 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 supports Ukraine. It's really, really important that we encourage others to come forward. We promote the good that people do. When we're in the depths of these foul times, as we were in the pandemic, and as we are with Ukraine now, it can be hard to imagine a way through. But this too shall eventually pass. and those still small voices of decency will be heard as assuredly as the spring follows the winter. For the many in Bath who have already taken action and of course will subsequently, really, really good for you. Different tack, meantime, we've got the Creative Bath Awards coming up, promoting the creative, tech and cultural areas of Bath through a CIC, another not-for-profit, which we run called Creative Bath. And they're running on July 21st in Queen Square, which will also aid some of the fundraising for the Bull as well. It's clearly a vital, dynamic, interesting sector. If you wish to be connected to it or involved in any way, please let's talk. EntreConf, our conference for entrepreneurs, is returning on June 30th, and it's backed by the University of Bath, inter alia, as they say. By the way, I say back in June, but our first EntreConf event is actually tonight, deep dive exploration of one of the region's most successful new businesses, Bath-based Network M. It's a great gathering of entrepreneurs and senior advisors tonight at the Avon Gorge in Bristol. There are a couple of places left. Last up, Bath Life. Of course, at the heart of all we do in Bath is Bath Life, and we are, as ever, very proud to publish a magazine that celebrates all the good stuff in Bath. Thank you for your support. Right, let's do this. Let's introduce our speaker for today. Let's bring forward Jane Ellis-Brush through the magic of Zoom. She is with us right now. Hello. Good morning, Jane.
Hi, good morning, Greg.
How are you this morning?
I'm not bad. I've got a bit of a cold. I've tested and it's not COVID. So
you added that very, very hastily, but very sensibly.
Yes.
There's quite a bit of COVID around at the moment, but for you at least. So welcome. By way of a scene setter for others who may not know Jane, Jane Ellis-Brush is a senior lecturer in supply chain management at the University of Bath, but also in this context, the founder of First Impressions, a CIC that supports female job seekers by providing them with workwear and also with mentoring. Jane studied her PhD at the University of Bath, then became a senior exec in a number of blue chip companies. So good morning and welcome to you this morning. Let's begin with your personal story and how that corporate life, the remarkable corporate life you've had, how that connects with what you're doing now, both in academia, and of course we'll come on to First Impressions subsequently.
Yeah, so I mean, I've had a very extensive career in corporate life, a 30-year career where most recently I was managing director for Citibank. Always in my life and my career, I felt that clothes were important in terms of image and how confident I felt. And so I've always had the ability to give myself the opportunity to dress when I needed to dress properly for an interview, or understood what how that made a difference, certainly not just to maybe the interview process, but actually to me as a person. And that's really where it started from. So I decided with my husband during lockdown, I think like lots of other sort of 50-year-olds, quite a few have decided to come up with a different alternative profile, and actually wanted to give up the corporate life and find other ways of enjoying my life. And so actually that's how I managed to get a part-time lecturing job at University of Bath. I saw an advert and applied.
And just tell us about that, because it's in some ways it's quite a career switch from the commercial world to academia. Did you have any apprehensions that it's too big a change, or what was the impulse for it?
I mean, the impulse, I guess, for it was I'm an alumna of Bath anyway, and I had a PhD. When I took my PhD, I never had the intention of being in academia, but when I saw the opportunity come up as a part-time lecturing role, I recognised it was going to be a complete change. I used to do a lot of talks to my teams, but it's very different to actually teaching undergrads and postgrads the supply chain. So, it's absolutely something that's still slightly out of my comfort zone, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm learning how to be a more effective teacher. But it's definitely something that's slightly different. It's not a corporate role for me, and I was in such a large role in corporate life that it's odd that I should find standing in front of students vaguely intimidating, but I still do a little bit, and I think it's important they have a good experience. Given the last few years, especially, I want them to get a passion for the subject, as I did when I was a student many years ago.
In a sense, it's another form of what many people do in their own business life, personal life, whatever, just wanting to test yourself, just to stay outside your comfort zone. But and the University of Bath, that's specifically because you were an alum, as they say.
Yeah, and I think it was just luckier. I think in reality, they're very pleased to have me with my extensive business experience. But because I didn't have a track record of teaching and the qualifications to do it, I think other organisations might have struggled to take me on. Whereas with Bath, it was an obvious fit for them, and they seem very happy to have me. So,
let's at a sort of top level point. Any tips when you considered your own switch and spoken with friends and so on about it? Any tips on how and why, and possibly even when, to make such career changes?
I think it has to be at a point in time when you feel like you've achieved a great deal in what you've done already. So not as a way of escaping. And so you feel like you can. I felt like I wanted to carry on working for many more years, but I just wasn't sure I wanted to do 24/7. 7 days a week, which is what was happening when I worked for the American bank. There was a lot of hours put in, and I actually wanted to spend more time with my husband, more time with our family. And actually this was a way of just having one of those portfolio careers you hear lots of people talk about all the time.
Yeah. And any other, I don't know, friends or former colleagues who've been through this sort of personal odyssey that you've noticed?
I've not. My husband's doing the same thing actually, so he's also become a teacher, so we've both done it together. But I've not known many people to switch their career so drastically as we did. But I think we were so certain after lockdown that we didn't want to stay in corporate life that it made a big impact, really.
So let's talk about the differences between, and I'm going to grossly oversimplify here, between the theory of academia and the practice of business, and how you've traversed those two different approaches to thinking.
I think probably when I was in work life, I actually tried to bridge the gap and bring some good thinking into my supply chain practice, because in supply chain there were lots of new techniques. We always faced challenges, and so often I'd bring the academic side of it into it anyway. So I always tried to bridge that gap. But I don't really, because I'm a teacher within the university. I still think there's quite a lot of practical application to what I'm doing with the students, and that's actually partly I guess that's one of my unique selling points for the students, is they don't get textbook stuff. They tend to get examples of what I found in work when I'm trying to explain the theories to them. So I think I can see the difference, but I guess for me it's more about practical application of the academic world and bringing that into the university.
Yeah, and I am grossly oversimplifying and making a division between the two. And I know that some of the extraordinary work that the School of Management have done at Bath exactly is that marrying of the two disciplines and melding insights and so on. I just want to come back to the lockdown point. Was there a definitive moment that prompted the thought, or alternatively, would this have happened without lockdown?
Good question. I think it would have happened. Maybe we wouldn't have moved to Bath, but it would have happened at some point. I think we were locked down at that point. We were locked down in Spain, which might be nice for some people, but we were away from our family, and we missed them massively. We couldn't travel to see anybody. We've both got aging parents, and they had various challenges when we were away. So I think we just really wanted to be closer. Although we haven't moved close to them, we've moved. We were living in up near London before we moved abroad 7 years ago. We moved back to somewhere we've never lived in before, because it was all about whoever got the job first. We moved to where the location was, so that's why we're in Bath.
And there are a few places finer than Bath, let's be honest.
Oh, we do. We love it. Absolutely love it.
My choice. By the way, I mentioned at the beginning about popping through any questions. Please, anyone watching, please do pop those through. You can be anonymous or named as you wish. Just use that Q&A. So I want to move on to first impressions, which is the meat of today's discussion. And so when you left one place at one point, you realised you actually had quite a lot of clothes, and that was also one of your trigger points, as it were.
Yeah, it was a huge trigger point. We moved into a small 2-bedroom flat that we'd rented, and all our stuff, which had been moved by the company for us from Hungary, which is where we were based before we moved to Spain. And all the stuff turned up having been packed by people in Hungary, and it arrived, and the clothes just kept coming through in boxes and boxes hung up. I actually had no room to unpack them. My husband was in the kitchen unpacking the kitchen stuff. I was in the bedroom fighting mountains of clothes that just continued to get worse and worse. And because I had such a large wardrobe in Hungary, we had a lovely big flat and a floor to ceiling walk-in wardrobe. It didn't seem to matter that I got more and more clothes, and I must have been buying them weekly for years. So, for me, it was, what am I going to do with these clothes? It was actually when we were in lockdown. We arrived here in March last year, nearly a year ago. And that's when the idea of First Impressions came into it, was wouldn't it be good if I could actually provide these clothes to other people so they could get the benefit that I did when I had them and I felt so confident. So just started from there, really, and it's gone from strength to strength. I've still got all the clothes here waiting to find homes for them, and I probably could have sold them, taken them to a charity shop, but I wanted to try and put them to productive use.
Let's come back to this, sort of a wider picture on this area, and then hone in on the detail, perhaps. And we will be picking up a number of these wider points about, frankly, from women in business to imposter syndrome, which one way or another affects us all, but probably appears to affect women more than men. But also how Bath companies can give practical help. Talk through the rationale. Were you aware of anything like this sort of initiative that you've got with First Impressions elsewhere? Well, what was the clothes was one prompt, but what else was led you to this area?
Well, there are other organisations nationally that do something similar. There's one place called SmartWorks that does something similar. It tends to be more corporate, and I contacted them quite early on to see if they would open up a franchise in Bath, and they hadn't got it on their radar. So, we also align it with interview skills coaching. So, we aim to provide interview skills coaching and interview workwear. In addition, we provide capsule wardrobes for people. So once you've got a job, you may not be able to afford the sort of clothes you need for the work until you get your first paycheck. So, we offer a month's clothes. People can select what they need, and they can have them. They can keep those clothes, or they can give them back to us at the end of the time when they've started to get themselves on their own 2 feet. So it does, it varies, the approach. And actually, we've worked with a number of women already, where the challenges are around, they tend to be around capsule wardrobe for them. They might have got a job, but they don't have the confidence in terms of what they've got to wear, and they need some help on styling advice. So we also have a stylist working for us as well, who can help women understand what they look good in.
So as a stand-back point, and in some ways it's a very banal question, but I think it's right at the root of this. Why does appearance matter?
Well, there's a whole load of stats out there which say that things like 33% of hiring managers know who they're going to hire within the first 90 seconds of meeting them. 50% think they can eliminate candidates for how they walk or walk through the door or the way they dress. And about 65% say candidates who don't make eye contact don't get hired. So there's an awful, unfortunately, first impressions count. Although we talk about bias and we try to eradicate that when people are interviewing, ultimately it's still there. And so we're just trying to say we need to give our women the best opportunity to find a role and to feel the best as well about it. Because if they're in a situation where a lot of our women are, where they might have come from abused homes, or they've had challenges in terms of mental health, they may not realise how much it can make a difference.
And just to touch on that, and of course, much of this is relatively sensitive. Why does appearance seemingly still matter more for women than for men?
Oh, I wish I could answer that, and I wish it didn't. I guess there's this imposter syndrome side of things where, women, a lot of women, and men do get imposter syndrome too. Women just don't feel as though they should be, that they deserve to be in the position they are in, and they constantly question whether it's right or not. And the power of appearance seems to make a big difference. And I've seen it practically happen with two of our clients when they put the clothes on we provided them, and they grew by 2 or 3 inches as a result of it. They just looked bigger and happier and more confident. And so whilst I don't really understand how it all works, I guess maybe there's some psychologists on the line that can explain it, but it seems to make a big difference. And certainly women in particular, it's one of the ways of I guess distinguishing yourself and standing out in the crowd. And I've always been able to do that, but I guess lots of other people can't do so.
I had a friend, or a maverick character called Felix Dennis, who used to say he would put his suit on because I'm donning my armour. And it was just a sense, it's not, I mean, in his case, there were many other aspects, of course, but there was just that sense, I'm now dressed for the occasion, I'm behaving differently as a consequence.
Absolutely.
Do you buy that broadly?
I do. I mean, when I used to work in the financial services sector, and it was an all-male crew mostly, certain meetings I would turn up to, in a pinstripe suit, or the next time I'd be in a colourful dress. It would just depend on what the role was and what was happening, but it made a big difference to me, more in terms of my overall confidence. And because I was confident, I was able to I guess, behave in the way I wanted to and get outputs that I wanted to. So, I just found it immensely powerful.
We've had our first question. It's reasonably close to home. It's from Jane. Oh no, it's not. It's gone anonymous. There you go. These the stats on first impressions.
Yeah.
Could you actually just quote them again a little later? I mean, obviously, people can pick it up on the YouTube, but
yeah. So 33% of hiring managers know whether they will hire someone in the first 90 seconds. 50% of interviewers think that a candidate can be eliminated for the position due to the way they dressed, acted, or walked through the door. And then 65% of interviewers said a candidate who failed to make eye contact didn't get the role they were applying for. And I'm sure there are lots of other stats out there. And actually, I test these out with audiences. I do quite a lot of different courses on confidence and stuff like that at various places. Actually, people think that's quite low. But actually, if you think it's 90 seconds, it just demonstrates snap judgments happen.
I mean, anyone recruiting, one of the first things they're advised is do not make quick judgments. And what does everyone do who recruits? You make quick judgments. We all do it in our personal lives.
Absolutely.
I wanted to run it's not exactly a theory, it's not as grand as that, an idea across you, which is that lockdown has democratized us all. We don't sit in amazing offices of steel and glass where we don't necessarily dress in the finest of clothes and so on.
Mm.
It has lowered the sartorial barriers, that we are more equivalent to each other now.
I think it's probably been a great enabler, although I would say that, I know that if I turn up on my Zoom call, which I've very rarely done, if ever, in my pajamas compared to, putting a nice shirt on or something. Not saying anything about you, Greg. No, but I think you still have to feel like you're going to work. Otherwise, it isn't. I don't think I perform as well if I'm a little bit casually dressed. I have to dress up for the occasion still. Maybe that's just me, but I still have to do that.
Yeah, I guess it's almost back to that armor point. It's back to the role. I mean, in a way, business, without being too abstruse about it, is quite performative. We're all playing some sort of role, and that is the part of the costume for the role. Maybe, who knows? We will come back to clothes and of course some practical points. But I wanted to move on to your mentoring approach. Can you, I don't know, perhaps talk through a case study, or how you would approach if someone came, beat a path to your door or is referred to you? How would you approach them?
Well, normally our referrals come through other Pathfinder organisations. So we've got a lady at the moment where she's needing help with her interview clothes and wardrobe, but she also needs support in terms of actually even building her CV and actually understanding what sort of jobs she wants to apply for. So we've assigned a mentor to her who's actually spent some time with her, sat down, talked through, things that she would like to do as a role. She's got a bit of a learning difficulty, which means that she's not worked for probably 8 years now. She's been out of the work system for 8 years, but is desperate to work and wants to add value. So, we're trying to look at how we can find her a role, pitching it at the right level. Maybe she's going to work as a cleaner somewhere or in a factory. And so she'll have coaching, interview coaching, if you like, and we'll start getting her ready for interview. And then when she starts getting her applications accepted, or maybe just before that, I'm actually meeting her this afternoon. I then try and get them into a wardrobe that means they're ready for going to an interview. When they get picked for one, they can wear their clothes to the interview, and they have all the techniques and some things in their repertoire ready to go.
So, apologies. On that mentoring point, we've had our good friend, anonymous attendee, she says about, or he, I don't know, I shouldn't presume it's female. Those stats are so telling, and this is such an important topic. How can local businesses get involved in mentoring? You mentioned your mentors and so on.
Yeah.
Where do they come from? How does one become a mentor?
So they can come through volunteering for us. So we've actually got, if they just email me at Jane at First Impressions, which is a 1ST, as in firstimpressions.org.uk. We've got quite a lot of people who've heard about us already from various radio shows and media. And so we've got a number of, I guess, a few people who are offering to mentor, but we're always willing to hear from other people and for businesses as well. You know, we don't really know how big it's going to get yet, but we're hoping we can provide services to all sorts of people across the Bath area.
A couple of points. One practical. I hope my colleagues in marketing at Media Clash will be able to put your address on the Twitter feed of this. And by the way, today's the 16th anniversary of Twitter, for what that's worth. How do we manage to live all those years without it? The more practical thing is, what types of skill set are appropriate to mentors? Where have they come from? What's their backstories?
Most of the people we have a variety actually. We've got a few from the University of Bath who actually tend to be in careers roles, helping students look for employment. But we also have a number of people across Bath who have had good business experience, understand how to interview people, have had some coaching experience, some coaching background. And you know, people who are good at active listening. So you know, we've got a toolkit that we use. We've got a whole load of different policies and stuff. So we kind of make sure that people have the same approach to our interviewees. But you know, essentially, we're looking for just people who are really interested in helping. I'd like to say also we're interested in people who actually want to help us get involved in the fashion side of it and the clothes side of it, because at the moment it's me and the stylist who works with me, Karina, and her and I tend to tag team to help the person with clothes. But you know, if there are other people out there who'd like to get involved and enjoy fashion, then please get in touch with us as well, because it tends to just be me.
We will also in the review about this in Bath Live, we will run the contact. But at the risk of bouncing you, Jane, and sure everyone else, we haven't even discussed this before. If I came to you theoretically and said, I could be interested in being a mentor. Could you almost real time terms talk me through what do I need to do? What does it look like? What's my approach?
What, when you actually meet someone, or
no? Well, if I
right, so you drop an email to me.
Yeah.
I have another colleague called Nicola Lloyd who works with me at the university, who's also a fellow director, and she works with mentors and actually helps them understand their role that's going to happen, gives them some documentation they have to look at to say, you know, what they're willing to commit to. So it sounds a bit onerous, but you know, if they can do an hour a month or whatever it is, then we start understanding how, you know, they're going to work with us, and then we put them on our books and wait for someone to come forward that we can match with them. And generally, it'll be me doing the matching. So Nicola will meet them first, and I will try and also meet them as well, just to say, you know, what sort of things are we interested in. So I've got a lady at the moment who is a careers person at the University of Bath, and I've matched her with someone, and she's in chemical engineering, and I've matched her with someone who has got a chemical engineering degree and needs some help for a job. So it's slow, and we have a very sort of clunky system, but we keep our contacts up to date, and we try and also make sure that we keep our mentors interested. So we send newsletters and things like that. And we've also had last week we had our first event where we got all our volunteers together and had a coffee. So you know, we just try and do that now that lockdown is kind of out of the way a little bit, hopefully, fingers crossed. We try and meet physically together and just catch up and understand how things work.
And if perhaps traipsing back to your corporate life, if you had a sort of the heat-seeking approach, where on a scale would the mentors be more junior, more senior? Would they be directly involved in recruiting or agnostic? What's your sort of sweet spot?
I'm not sure there's a hard and fast rule. I mean, I need mentors from all age groups really, because the one thing I know is, I had a lady who was only in her early 20s. We need people who have some empathy about what that's like, rather than just necessarily assigning someone like me who's an over 50-year-old to work, especially from a fashion point of view. But I think, we're looking at people who have a passion for this, who understand, how to give confidence, how to help people build skills, build interviewability. So yeah, preferably if they've done some recruiting or some interviewing, or they work in a careers area, but otherwise, just really experienced business people is good too, because experienced business people interview people for a living a lot of the time. So anything like that would be helpful.
And I guess that, with the increasing trend when it comes to interviewing in companies, that it tends to be panel sessions, or you bring the rest of the team in before you appoint someone. A lot of people, probably, dare I say, in hierarchical terms, slightly more junior than previously, would have been involved in recruiting and interviewing. So in other words, your pool is vast, potentially.
Yeah, and we've got all sorts of different people who've come forward, solicitors, some lawyers, as I say, career counsellors, some recruiters. So we've got someone who's an MBE. We've got a whole range of different people who willingly put themselves forward. So, it's very exciting.
Well, here's one of these questions which you may quite like, actually. You never know. This is from Celia Mead, highly experienced person, and a great combination of both business and philanthropy in her case, and the arts world. Do you need corporate sponsorship from Bath companies, and how would you deploy that? What would you do if you got a bunch of money? What would you do with it, basically?
And hello, Celia, because Celia knows the journey that we've been on. So that's. Right. I think, it's one of those things where the more funding we have, the more we can do. So at the moment, we've just managed to secure a small room to rent in Fairfield House, because we have some grant money from St John's, actually. But if we had more opportunity, the thing I'm really keen on is actually giving women a choice and almost an ability to have a boutique feel for the clothes. So we've got large amounts of clothes, we've got a relatively small space, but I'd like to have eventually somewhere bigger where the rails hang and people can come in and have a look and pick their own clothes and make them feel a little bit more special, because part of what we're trying to do is create the best first impression of ourselves as well. And we're still not quite there yet. So we work currently with partner organisations like Mercy in Action. So we go to their shops and we try and use their clothes, their changing facilities, to help our ladies try clothes on. Not the best thing, but not bad. So obviously, if we have our own changing facilities, our own places for interviews, for desks, then we get better and bigger. I'm always impatient for progress, as people tell me, and I think I don't know if it's slower down here than in London, but I'm always fighting to try and get things moving really quickly. So I'm always keen to look at options.
Well, I actually think impatience is a virtue. It's often the driver of change. Can you tell us about, it's perhaps almost from a psychological point of view, is the preference when you eventually have something approaching a boutique and so on, is the preference for its individuals going individually, or would you potentially have larger scale events where people come and see how it works? Is it essentially private, or?
I think we wouldn't want people wandering off the street, but we have talked about running pop-up events, and so potentially organising a pop-up. Some of the challenges we have is that we've had feedback that not all the women who we work with would want to be coming along to an event. They might be having to have something more private. So I think we've thought about pop-ups to potentially raise money, for example, by selling some of the excess clothes we have. So there's a whole range of different options. I like the idea of pop-up events. I don't really want to keep a massive shop for just the occasion of people walking in until we understand the full demand. But SmartWorks, for example, have premises. They have shops with rails and that sort of thing. So they do something similar.
Yeah. It's a question again from someone who's anonymous, touching on something that I mentioned in the intro, which is Ukraine. Although it's positioned that how will you pivot? I mean, reality is, of course, not everyone either can or necessarily should, but that's a different one. How will you pivot to help the incoming Ukrainian refugees who need support from many angles? So it's not so much the fundraising that others are involved with the current evils and war that there is. For those Ukrainian refugees, what particular role might you have?
Well, we are already working with some organisations in Bath that work with refugees, so I can see them that we would be willing to obviously work with Ukrainian refugees who are looking for work and helping them understand how to approach the UK jobs market, because that must be something they need help with. Obviously, we work with organisations, like the Employment Service, like DWP. So I'm sure they're also thinking about how they can react. But for us, clothes would be really important, I would suspect, as well as helping them understand how to work in the UK jobs market. So very happy to be involved in that. Yeah,
and of course, for all the obvious reasons, that will be unfolding and more significant in the weeks and months to come than it is right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, come to a slightly more general, and I'll ask you a specific. How can you seek to inculcate confidence, particularly in those from underprivileged backgrounds?
I think it's spending time with people. I think it's helping them understand what's important. It's getting them to understand, what is it that makes them special? And a lot of the time, they haven't had that perspective. So I do things like I build a tree of success with them, and so it's about how to create the tree with the roots are their strengths, the branches are their skills, and the apples are their I guess achievements. And it's a really and get them to draw the tree as well. I've done it a few times with I've worked with Bath College on a course called Age Positive, and I just talked to them about, well, how can let's think about what you're good at. And I think that helps build confidence. I think a lot of these people have never had the chance to think about what they're good at because they're focusing on lots of other things about keeping their heads above water. So
surviving.
Yeah, and just corny things like drawing a tree and getting them to think slightly differently helps start to build their confidence. It's not going to be instant. But I think, that's the point of just trying to get people to build on something, gradually build, help them gain confidence, help them understand what sort of roles they can apply for, and give them some confidence about that. And I think because we have people who are very skilled at this, hopefully it'll make a difference.
And it connects to this point about the lower expectations in some cases, or self-editing, or then into, you mentioned earlier about the imposter syndrome, which it is tougher for people from underprivileged backgrounds, and tougher also for women.
Yeah, and there's also things like limiting beliefs, which are, we discount ourselves from all sorts of jobs. One of the things I also talk to people about is, if you went for a job that was only 50% within your skill set, would you apply for it? A lot of women would not apply for that sort of role, whereas actually sometimes you find that men might do. I'm doing sweeping generalizations, but actually, so when I looked at the Bath job for me, for the lecturer job, I had quite a lot of the things down there, but what I did was reach out to Bath University and say, is it worth me applying? And I think sometimes you can almost discount yourself from that, as opposed to having a conversation with people and saying, well, let's see if we could do something different.
There's a question from Duncan McGibbon. Students are particularly affected by insecurity due to COVID disruption, amongst many things, but disruption of studies.
Yep.
Can you help business studies get work experiences as this is expected but not provided by the courses?
We've been certainly talking to a number of organisations about it. So we already, Bath University know that we have this as availability. We also are talking to a number of organisations who look after, they're sort of, I guess they've got children from the ages of sort of 5 to 19 on their books. And so we're already starting to work with some of those organisations. I think there's an organisation called Three Ways that we're just about to start working with. So yeah, we're happy to. We were doing some work with Mentoring Plus, potentially the girls group and things. So I think absolutely, there's no reason why we couldn't help do something like that. As you can see, it's, for me, it's just about trying to make the contacts, and so get hold of these organisations and find out who needs help. And that's what I've been trying to do for probably the last 8 months, is find referrals. So we definitely still need more referrals. We're happy to hear from organisations who'd like to partner with us.
There is another group which our anonymous attendee is asking about, and you'll be very familiar with this as a question, of course. Is it a conscious decision to only work with women when there are many men in the same situation, needing the same support, suitable clothes for interviews and mentoring and so on? Why is your approach only women, and if so, why?
It is for the moment purely because we had to start focusing somewhere. That's not to say that we don't work with men. So I've certainly done a number of talks where men have been there, and I've given them some advice as well. I think our sense is that it's slightly easier to get men into interview clothes because it's probably a shirt and a pair of trousers, whereas with women, it can be a whole range of different clothes. So it's not that I don't think men need help with it, but I think women are more of a priority.
Yeah, and in practical terms, two things. One, you simply can't do everything anyway.
No.
Certainly in an early stage, to have focus, which then helps define you and helps explain yourself to other people, focus absolutely helps. And so
yeah. I also, things like students, I can see us working with both. We just might not have the wardrobe for the men. But in terms of instilling confidence and that sort of stuff, then we're very happy to work with both genders.
And aren't there some stats that, and again, this is gross generalization stuff, that men tend to be more confident? I think there's a stat about, if you asked women and men how they would rate their driving skills, men are materially higher, presumably, wrongly to have anything like that disparity. But
yeah,
men,
I think there is I think there is a basic difference, and plus the fact a lot of the women we work with have been out of the workforce for a long time, maybe because they had children, and I think that presents its own unique set of challenges for them. So it's not just about getting confidence; it's about, well, how do they even learn what's required at work now?
Let's talk about some of your clients. You mentioned they're referred to you by a network of referral partners.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of people, what backgrounds? Maybe a not too detailed, but a case study of the type of people.
Sure. I mean, we have had a lady who actually got a role already, going to work in a bank. So really good. She'd been a carer for a long time and hadn't worked for ages. She'd already got a job, so we were approached to help provide a capsule wardrobe because she didn't have anything she felt confident in wearing to work. So she was eventually going to get a uniform, but in the first 6 weeks she had to have her clothes with her, and she just said to me, I don't want to wear my interview clothes every day for 6 weeks. So that was her. She was in her 50s, and just didn't have I don't think she even really thought about what she would look good in. So the typical thing, when I spoke to her and said, what colours do you like? She said, I just like black and grey. But actually I got her into a red top and a nice colourful jacket, and she seemed perfectly happy and confident, and said she'd never had the opportunity to wear those sort of clothes before, and how better it made her feel. So she seemed very happy and confident. We had to get her some shoes as well. And then we had a young girl who had some mental health problems, and hadn't worked for quite a long time. And again, she'd got a job, but she was going to work as a teacher's assistant, but she didn't have any clothes and didn't really know what to wear in the classroom. So, we met her and got her some outfits that we thought were suitable for her, and she loved them and was really happy. And again, provided a pair of boots for her because she was living in a Dr. Martens, which might be okay for all sorts of jobs. I'm not sure it would have really worked in the school. So, she seemed again delighted with the outcome. So, and as I say, you watch them grow a few inches just by putting something on they've never tried on before. It
must be the many emotions I'm sure you have about this, about the sheer range, the complexity, the perhaps only touching the surface. But it must be incredibly rewarding for you personally and for those involved with first impressions.
Yeah, we've from the people we've met, and I've got a number of students working with me as well who are so enthusiastic about it. It's wonderful to see it picking up and taking off. I know when I first had the idea and I spoke to a few people, everyone thought it was a good idea, but when you just starting to pick up momentum, I still want a lot more clients. I still want greater momentum. I want to move faster, but actually just sitting down and spending time with individuals is really, it's quite humbling. I'm meeting a client this afternoon, and I'm taking my clothes with her to try on. I've been through our clothes bank and have come up with some items for her, and I'm hoping she'll like what we found her. So we're going to do that this afternoon. And again, it's just trying to find the outfits that you think the person's going to like, and it's quite often a very limited description when you get them from the client, and then we take a range of outfits and see what works. And so far, everyone's been happy.
I mean, the sheer complexities of that alone,
yes.
Because people are all different sort of shapes, job requirements are quite different. People mention about colour, interests or otherwise. Hell of a challenge for you. If you wound the clock forward, and this is more of thinking back to your corporate life, wound the clock forward, I don't know, a year, 2 years time or something. What do you think first impressions might look like? What sort of scale or otherwise?
I'm hoping it's really established in Bath, and maybe it's moving out to sort of it's Baines, it's also Bristol. But I think the other thing, we've had a number of organisations contact us from Southwest, I guess other Southwest communities. So, for example, Frome, and also we had one from Taunton. Potentially we could not franchise it, but we can give people the opportunity to create something similar. I don't want to own the whole network. But I think, you know, there may be a model that helps, you know, other cities, other organisations, other towns get something like this, where there's a need. And I suspect there is a need across this. You know, there's a lot of organisations who do help with interviews and you know, getting women ready for work. But actually, there's not a lot of help on the clothing front. Yes, okay, DWP will give you some money if you need to go and get an outfit, but that isn't helping you find what you should be wearing. It's not giving you the advice of what to wear. It's just giving you £50 to go and buy an outfit. And I'm not sure people find that particularly helpful, although of course any help is gratefully received. So I can imagine, you know, there'll be a lot of demand for this, not just in Bath, but all over the place.
What help or support of Bath University given you in this?
Oh, they've huge amounts. I mean, apart from the fact that I use they let me use their PR team, which really put us on the springboard to getting lots more support, volunteering, that sort of stuff. But also, they were the people who first helped point me in the right direction of people in Bath to talk to. So I found Bath University really helpful, just to put me in the right direction when I didn't know anyone in Bath. They were sort of saying, "Oh, speak to this person, speak to this person." So, and they've remained a big supporter. Plus the fact I have a number of students working for us. I've got my marketing manager as a student, my operations manager is a student. I've got 2 directors from Bath University, so a professor and Nicola, as I said, who's one of the directors. So yeah, a lot of support already. And if I hadn't been working at Bath and doing that, I suspect I wouldn't be anywhere near as moving forward. We've had lots of other organisations help us too, but Bath has been very fundamental.
And when you talk through about the roles, I'm imagining these are part-time roles, no,
yeah,
volunteer roles, but nonetheless the sense of ambition which you're strongly implying by having that degree of infrastructure is pretty palpable. So you've got plans, clearly. Yeah,
no, we have plans, and we've got you know, Nicola, one of the directors, is incredibly well organised, and she's created all the documentation. We've got a website going on. We've obviously got a marketing campaign. You know, we've got 2 students who work with us, and then some more also adding on to that. So, you know, we've got a lot of support, but we can always do with more. I think we're keen on, for example, we've just taken a room in Fairfield House. You know, we now need to paint that room, so I need to get some volunteers over painting that and getting it ready so that our clients can go visit as soon as possible. We were almost doing it, and then my mother had a fall 2 weeks ago, and I had to shoot off down to Sussex to try and help her. So it's all been a bit of a challenge for us, but you know, we're still pushing forward.
And if it's, you know, so much of this is about building confidence and develop and so on, then frankly, the better the surroundings, the better the offer and so on, the more that will all aid it. So, you know, as well as decorating, maybe design, what could other Bath businesses watching this live or subsequent on YouTube, what could they do to help?
Well, we are always in need of more space, so, you know, potentially some space to put things. If people want to volunteer and help us decorate the room, then that would be great. Clothes, donations, smart clothes, we're still willing to accept those. We want more and more, because obviously, as you said, there's a myriad of sizes, different people liking different sorts of clothes, and so we're trying to have as many as we can on those. Shoes, we're kind of struggling on shoes a little bit. So shoes in particular, we don't have huge ranges of shoes. Yeah, and just generally, you know, also referral organisations. So if people know of organisations that could help refer people to us, because you know, there's all sorts of different organisations across the whole of Bath. I've met quite a lot of them, but you know, the more we're on people's radar, the more they'll remember that, you know, send people to First Impressions if they need an interview outfit.
Well, if right now there's someone who's watching thinking, you know, I've got a few pairs of shoes I don't actually need, what do they do? Do they go along to Fairfield House? Is that the idea?
No, don't do that yet. I mean, they drop. Celia would not thank me for that. They can drop me an email, and we'll arrange either to collect them or you know, drop them off somewhere. So at the moment, I've got things in my house, so has Nicola, and we've also got a large amount of stuff in other locations. So you know, we need to put it all together, which is why we want the room decorated. But yeah, people can get in touch with me, and we'll arrange to work out how to get the clothes.
In a ... and you never know quite where it goes, do you think you might end up, or not end up, but at some point have some sort of retail offering? There are a few retail sites vacant, which are the landlord is Baines, for example?
Well, yeah, I did get sent a shop that looked delicious and lovely, but it was £15,000 a year, and I'm not sure I can justify tying up a room like that for, it depends on the footfall. But I think it's got to be a more tailored approach, really. It's a space for people to use when they need to use it. So I think anything as beautiful. I saw one on Walcott Street that was wonderful, but I think it would be a shame if a live shop wouldn't go in there. But you never know. Never say never.
Never say never. And talking of never say never, what other volunteers? We discussed mentoring, and that is an ever open door, as it were. What sort of skill sets might you be looking for?
I think we're looking for people who are good with things like colours and stuff like that. So we're looking for fashion, people who can inspire confidence with people by the things that they wear, people who've got a good eye. If you can interview someone or you can talk to someone and recognize what they might look good in. We have a number of shape sizes and guide sizes for people to help themselves, but we're looking for people who can help us with the fashion side of it too. As I say, it's mostly just me and Karina at the moment, and so if we suddenly get very busy, it's going to be us that are the bottleneck. And
there are so many different skills in Bath. I mean, for example, when you talk about fashion, there's a great fashion faculty or department at Spa University. Who knows what sort of relationships are spawned from that.
Yeah, I mean, we also talked about potentially offering people haircuts, giving them an opportunity to sort of look and feel good. So that's another thing that we were thinking about doing with the pop-up. So we obviously, if we did that, we'd need hairdressers, we'd need beauticians, that sort of stuff. We're not quite ready to do that, but if we do a pop-up, that would be something as well.
Yeah, and there are a number of very civically minded people. I think Street Cuts, Eddie Illich,
yes.
the bar,
yeah, BA1 hair,
yeah, just an amazing initiative, and he had his own personal backstory which prompted him in that direction. But Eddie, brilliant. There are others as well. So I'm sure with the momentum you've got behind you and the opportunity to promote, there will be other people beating a path to your door. Another question: could businesses or individuals gift clothes in a similar way to how in a restaurant you can add a £5 to your bill for invisible chips, etc.?
Yeah, I guess potentially yes. We actually are joined up under Easy Fundraising. So if people want to start using Easy Fundraising, so if you buy something on Amazon, I've been doing it. You go through Easy Fundraising, and we'll get a tiny percentage of the purchase. So there's all sorts of companies on there, so we can probably send you a link on Easy Fundraising, because that's something we've just started doing. So that would be really appreciated.
Well, I think in terms of the subsequent piece in Bath Life, if you could provide us with a box of things you would like from Bath businesses and Bath individuals and how they can get involved, we'll happily promote this, because it is an incredibly important area. And I think one of the paradoxes of Bath, for all its extraordinary wealth and beauty and glamour and so on, and the deep cleft poverty that are around the city, that are arguably more marginalised in a successful city than they are in a more distributed city. But
absolutely, and I was really surprised when I moved here that the two of the most top 10 most deprived areas we're here in Bath. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and if anything, you could argue the sheer disparity.
Yes.
Even worth it's absolute, but it's relative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jane, we've covered quite a lot of ground. I'm wondering if there's anything on reflection you think you'd want to stress again as a sort of some closing thoughts, or some areas we haven't touched on just yet.
I think we've covered an awful lot of ground. For me, it's really about making connections. So if people are listening and they want to get involved, great. If they think of other organisations I should be partnering with to help clients, then also good, because I'm new to the area. I'm still new, even though I've been here a year now. So just please get in touch and give me some suggestions. I'm always willing to have a call, have a chat with people, just to see how it can be improved.
Well, I'm going to do that shocking thing I sort of did to you before, which is bouncing you live on something. So if you are free, midday next Monday, please come along to the Bath Life Business Club, and we'll introduce you to some interesting people. And Woodhouse and Law is a brilliant interior design business. I mean, who knows? But come along, and if either that or another one, we'll figure a date, because it's a role that we can help, is helping make connections and so on. We're absolutely delighted on such an important issue. This one, your work really does matter indeed. So I'm going to close this point. I'm just going to check there's any more questions. There's not. So thank you today for our Bath Life Business Surgery speaker, Jane Ellis-Brush. Thank you very much for your insight and inspiration, and frankly for the work that you're doing. And these are relatively early stages, but it's quite clear the intent and the need and the capability. Also, thanks to the University of Bath School of Management. Thank you to everyone watching for your time, and a lot of really good questions as well. Thank you for your support for Bath Life and what we're seeking to do in the city. And yeah, we'll maybe see you at one of our business clubs, such as one next Monday or some other time. This has been a Media Clash production, and this has been the latest Bath Life Business Surgery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bath together, always. Thanks.